Hello, and welcome back to A Mental Break. I'm your host, Taylor Simpson, and this is, I think this is episode 2 or 3 now. I'm not keeping track anymore. This is, welcome to season 3. It's been a minute. My first episode came out at some point. I don't know when, because it hasn't come out yet, but, as of shooting this one, but hey, I'm rambling. Welcome to the show. Today's guest is super fucking cool, and I'm so stoked to have her on the pod, and that she agreed to come on and open up about mental health with me today. Her and I have been pals for I think 2 years now.
2 years, yeah. It's been 2 years.
Maybe?
I feel like it's been two
I
years
feel like it's been two
actually.
years.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I think so.
Time
Which is
flies.
crazy
Damn.
to think
Yeah.
about that. We've played shows together. She's an
God.
amazing musician. She's a teacher.
Yes,
She's
I
an
am.
incredible, big, bubbly personality. Everyone, welcome Alyssa Messina to the show. Alyssa,
Thank
how are
you.
you?
Thanks for having me. I'm great. I'm feeling very excited, ecstatic, and when you asked me to come on your podcast, I was like so honored to be a part of it. So I'm doing great. It's beautiful outside. It's summertime, can't
Yeah,
complain. Yeah, got my
absolutely.
coffee. I'm good to go. Yeah,
Yes, the coffee's important.
yeah, it definitely is. I am a addict. I will admit to that. That's for sure.
I feel like most people are. Most people are. It's funny,
Yeah.
I've never, I had coffee a couple of times when I was younger, but I never
Hmm.
got into drinking coffee.
So you're
I just don't like
still
the
like
taste.
you don't wait. You don't drink coffee?
I don't
It,
drink coffee.
stop.
Yeah.
No way. Okay.
Seriously, I don't
That's.
drink coffee. I don't drink tea. Like, I don't drink any hot
I
drinks,
don't think
really.
you. I don't think you really had a good coffee. That's. That's. I honestly don't think you had a good coffee. I'm very sad for you right now.
Hey, I've gotten this far in my life without it, so
Okay, good for you. I'm proud of
and
you. I'm
and
proud of
seeing
you.
how like it affects other people, I'm like maybe I'm not missing out.
It does dry your skin. I do. They do say it dehydrates you, and you got to drink even more water. So
It stains
you're
your
just.
teeth apparently too.
I think my teeth are pretty white. I don't know about you,
I'm not
but
complimenting your teeth. I'm just saying in general,
yeah,
your
yeah,
teeth look
true. It
great.
does.
But I'm just
Thank
saying
you.
like that's one of the effects I've heard,
Yeah, it
and
does.
you become addicted to it. It's like a drug.
Mm, c'est la vie.
Hey, but we all have our vices, right? So,
We do
and
absolutely.
coffee is a universal vice.
It is. It makes the
But
world go
anyways,
round.
we want to
Anyway,
sidetrack here.
okay.
Alyssa, welcome to the show. Thank you for being
Thank you.
here.
Thank you.
Um, for those listening and watching that may not know who you are, I'm sure
Mm.
most people that follow me have seen us play
Oh
shows
yeah,
together at least. But just in case
absolutely.
there's somebody tuning in who doesn't know who you are, let the people know a little bit about yourself, Alyssa.
Yeah, so my name is Alyssa Messina. I'm a singer-songwriter, born and raised in Toronto, Ontario. Lived in Etobicoke briefly when I was like 4, 5, don't remember it, but yeah, born and raised in the city. Um, I'm in a band called the Alyssa Messina Band as well. So we've been kind of, doing shows full
Woohoo!
time this past like year and a bit. Um, and alongside of my music stuff that I do, that I love, that I enjoy, I'm also a teacher and I educate the young minds of the future. So it's a nice combination between what I love to do and what I also love to do. So it's like, a big combination of stuff. So that's just a little bit about me.
Yeah,
I sing, I play piano, I'm learning guitar, which is great. Feel like I can have a future
congratulations.
with that. Thank you. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's a little bit about me. I hope that's kind of clear. So
awesome.
yeah,
Well, thank
thank
you for
you.
sharing, Alyssa.
Thank
Gets
you.
a bit more insight for like the guests on the show today, and
Yeah.
lets them kind of into your world and who you are as a person before we get into mental health stuff.
Mhm.
What grade do you teach, Alyssa? I don't know if I've ever asked you this question.
Oh my God. So I teach high school. I teach grade 9 to 12. So I get
Grade 9 to 12. Wow.
yeah, yeah. I usually have a lot of nines and tens. So and then it's kind of it's kind of hilarious when they find out that you're in a band and they like find you and it's like oh my God, what am I posting, what am I, but everything's fine, it's all good. They actually um it's like they see you in like a different light, which is interesting. So like you're their teacher, but you also can maybe be someone that they look up to and they think, wow, like how does my teacher
Yeah,
do
you play in a
this?
rock band. That's fucking cool,
They're
man.
they're a real person, I think. They're not a robot, but yeah, yeah. So we're 9 to 12.
Yeah. It's always
Mm-hmm.
funny, like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's interesting. That must be a tough age to teach, I'd imagine. Like high school kids.
Yeah, they all have their own sets of emotions and personalities, absolutely. I feel like
Hmm.
you kind of have to find that middle ground with the classes you teach, and you really have to get to know your kids. And I think that's why like I also just enjoy teaching, is because it just allows me to make connections and to, teach, but not only teach, but like inspire and like, grow the young minds of the future. So it's tough, but
Right.
there are some amazing moments in the classroom that like nobody ever really gets to see. So yeah, the growth
Of
of
course. I'm sure
students throughout
it's
the
all worth it at the end
semester.
of the day.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like, you're literally teaching young people,
Mm.
like,
Yeah.
learning knowledge. See, this is how much I retain from school.
I
Grammar
try
is
to make it
shit.
fun. I try to
Uh,
make it fun. It can be
no, and
boring
I'm really glad
sometimes,
that you
but
do. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah.
I just find like a funny phenomenon. I don't know if you felt the same way when you were in school when you were younger,
Mm.
but I
Hmm.
know for me it was always a weird thing where it's like the teachers only exist in the school to you,
Oh yeah,
and like you kind of forget that they have lives outside of the school.
yeah,
And I remember running into one of my teachers like in a grocery store, and I was like, "What the fuck? What are you doing here?
yeah. It's so true,
Like
and
you
it's
only
so
exist in school." Like,
yeah, and it's like they show up in jeans. It's like, whoa, you're wearing jeans? Like you have a pair of jeans? Because I my
yeah,
teachers they all wear dress pants and stuff, right? So like
right,
just
yeah. Or if you see them in like
having
shorts and like a Hawaiian
and
shirt, you're like, "What?"
I don't know. I just that's why. So I feel like I don't know what they think when they see me in the rock band. Like I have no idea what
It must
they're.
be interesting. Like I'm just thinking of that perspective when I was younger, seeing my teachers like outside of school, like what that would
Yeah,
be like, and then like having not only
weird.
that, but then having your teacher be in a rock band and like playing in a band. Like that must be such a interesting thing to have as the student, you know?
Yeah. I also feel like, technology these days is very different from when we were like when I was in high school, I feel, just because Instagram wasn't such a
Yeah,
huge thing. And that just I feel like if you have social media and it's open, it's more out there, right? So you kind of have to kind of be wary of like what you're putting out there as well, and
for
in
sure.
combination with your profession. So it's a little bit of a juggling kind of game, right? But
Yeah, of
anyways,
course. Like
seeing my teachers,
I
it's
imagine, yeah.
yeah. Did I tell
Does
you?
that
I
give you like
actually,
praise points? Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I, well, a little bit of praise points, but also like I don't think I told you, but the show that you played at with me back in supermarket, yeah, back in February. I think I told you, but I can't remember now. One of my students ended up buying 3 tickets online, and I was like, oh my gosh! And they ended up
Oh, no
coming with,
way.
yeah, they showed up to the show, and you know, I was there as the Alyssa Messina, but then as Miss Messina, and it was like this weird like combination. It was
Miss Messina.
strange. I was like, oh my god. But he ended up coming with like his dad and his uncle, and it was like so cool. Like I don't know, I don't
That's so
know.
cool.
I hope I left a
Oh,
good
that's nice.
impression on him.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say, yeah, I'm sure you did.
yeah, yeah,
But they were
yeah.
at that
Yes,
show, eh? In the snowstorm.
they came to the snowstorm show. I was like, that's amazing. Wow, like I felt so happy. Um, so
That's
anyway,
so cool. I'm glad they were
yeah,
there. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Hopefully, you have more
Yeah.
students come out.
Well, if it's 19 plus, probably not. Usually the
Oh,
shows that
true.
you,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
true, right? Like, yeah,
yeah.
one
I
day
guess that
we'll see.
doesn't help. I
No,
forgot high school students. Duh.
they can't come unless if they have fake IDs, which I
Maybe in a
should
couple
not
of
know
years.
about. Yes.
Yeah, Messina doesn't know anything.
Not
Plausible
looking.
deniability.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for
Mhm.
indulging me in the teacher questions
Yeah.
and for letting people know a little bit about yourself before we get into the mental health stuff. But
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
do always like to ask my guests before we dive into the mental health stuff, how they're feeling today. Are they
Mhm.
feeling comfortable? And, I didn't coerce them into talking about mental health without their will. Like, it's consent, obviously. Like, just
I give
making
you.
sure you're comfortable and, like, you're
Yeah.
getting into and, like, you
Hmm.
consent to talk about mental health. Because it's triggering for some people. And I just want to make sure that the guests are always comfortable. And
Yeah.
it lets the listeners know, too, that they're here of their own free will and they're openly talking about it.
Yeah, I'm definitely comfortable. Having a great day, but I'm comfortable about sharing about my experiences and getting into the podcast. So, mhm.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, with that being said, my first question for you, Alyssa, is
Mm.
what mental health struggles or illnesses do you deal with?
So a few mental health, well, not a few, but I think there's one that really um sticks with me. I feel like I struggle, and as bubbly as I can be, I feel like I struggle with um feeling overwhelmed and sad. So I feel like I have a little bit of depression, even though I don't like to admit that
Mm-hmm.
I do. Um, and
Interesting.
it's I don't know if it's as severe as other people that I know. Like I know other people that deal with it, but I feel like it's like I don't know if I get sucked into a world, I just get like extremely sad sometimes, and I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've never really been diagnosed with anything, so I'll throw that out there. But I do feel like sometimes I deal with a lot of stuff in my head, um, maybe that's drawn by like past experiences, that can really
Right.
trigger my self esteem sometimes. So yeah, it's I try to not get caught up, but it's some days are um, worse than others, and yeah, so I feel like I struggle a lot with that. I don't really talk
Okay.
about it actually. So here we are.
It it's interesting. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I've had this
Mm-hmm.
happen before in the pod where it's like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people have told me like without this platform, they don't really talk about it openly like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll talk about it in
Right.
passing with their friends and stuff, but like to openly talk about it and like really sit with it with
Mm-hmm.
somebody and like
Mm-hmm.
that this is the direction of the conversation. Like I've had other people say that this is not something they normally do, which is nice,
Yeah.
right? So it's kind of opening up a bit more, which is the whole point of this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
thank you for being vulnerable and letting us
Yeah.
know that. It's interesting that
Mm-hmm.
you said that you don't admit it to yourself or you
Yeah,
don't like to talk about it. So like where does that feeling stem from? I'm curious.
um, feel
Is it
I
like do you feel
just
shameful of it? Like
I don't feel no, I don't feel shameful of it. I just feel like maybe the reason why I don't talk about it as much as I probably should is just because I feel like a lot of people um like they'll listen, but then they'll think that I'm not like they'll think like, oh, it's okay, you're just having a bad day. Or like, I just feel like a lot of people just don't really understand what it is sometimes. So,
mm-hmm.
I feel like they just look at me and go, yeah, Alyssa is like this bubbly, like happy person. And I am. Like I feel like that's what helps me most of the time. And I always keep busy and everything. But um sometimes things get very overwhelming and I have to question why I'm doing what I'm doing. So the reason why I just feel like I don't talk about it as much
Sure.
is because I just feel like I don't know, people just don't really fully get it. I also don't want to come off as
That's
like
fair.
selfish, like, oh, she's like pitying herself for not having a bad day. But, I don't
No one thought that, I promise you. But thank you for covering just in case. But I did
know.
not get that impression.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
interesting because like I understand where you're coming from for sure because I felt that way for a long time too.
Hmm.
Because I've been diagnosed with depression. I don't know if I've ever talked about this to you or not. Maybe I have. I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I've been diagnosed with depression, OCD, and anxiety. So I have all
Hmm.
three.
Hmm.
Um, and it took a long time for me to be comfortable with talking about it.
Hmm.
And feeling like people really understood, and I totally get the sentiment of like, oh, you're just having a bad day, or oh, you're just sad now, but you'll be better, or whatever. Because you and I both
Yeah.
have, bubbly personalities. We're both, musicians. You're a teacher as well, so we're
Mm-hmm.
always in front of people, right? So it's like we're
Mm-hmm.
always presenting in a way,
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost
Mm-hmm.
like I don't want to say wearing a mask, but it kind of feels like wearing a mask sometimes, like and people don't really
Yeah.
see underneath the surface level of us, right?
Yeah.
And Alyssa, I'm gonna say this earnestly, like I feel like that's most people with depression, honestly.
Yeah.
It's the ones that you
It's
don't expect. Like it's the ones that are the bubbliest people that you'll meet, but deep
yeah.
down, like they're really struggling, Like look at Robin Williams, for example.
Oh yeah, he's
The guy was
yeah,
hilarious.
so funny. You would never even, I mean,
One of the
obviously,
funniest men on earth,
yeah. Hmm. Yeah, he
but
was
dealt with depression
definitely for
to the point
sure.
of, so it's
Yeah.
like you just never know, right?
Hmm.
So I wouldn't discredit yourself at all for what
Hmm.
you're feeling just because you feel like you're a certain person
Hmm.
normally,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
So I don't know if you've ever
Hmm.
thought of it in that angle before, but that's what I like to tell people that ever come to me with this. I don't openly just solicit this, but if people like open up to me about it, I always say like, like don't discredit yourself. Like just because you feel like you're a certain way doesn't mean you're allowed to feel what you're allowed to
Hmm.
feel or what you're
Hmm.
feeling. Like if,
Hmm.
if you're going through a depressive episode and you know it's depression, you're depressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's I mean it's not fine, but it's like
Yeah.
you're entitled to your own feeling, right? It's valid to you, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. Um, yeah, exactly. So I feel like, that these feelings are valid, right? And I just, I know I feel like it's this one thing that I always have in my head. It's like, I feel like I don't want to be so all about me kind of thing, right? So I feel like I'm presenting a lot. I'm presenting a lot and I'm, in the light a lot. And I feel like, it does get to me every now and then. So yeah,
yeah, I can
but,
imagine. It's a lot of weight on your
stress.
shoulders, like being
Yeah.
and like well trying to juggle just being a musician in the first place is hard enough, and then trying
Yeah.
to balance that with being a teacher too. Like I can't imagine like is there any like turn
You
off
know,
point like
you know what? I never thought I would ever be a teacher, actually. Never thought I would. And I actually went to school for theater and drama. So like I have a very like artistic background and acted for a few years and then I decided to get into teaching and then, I kind of came full circle to what I love, which is music and singing and performing. So it's really nice to be in a space where like um, I have a job, that does support me, but then I'm able to do what I love. But it does take a toll sometimes when I just have a lot going on my plate. But it's also that
yeah
internal thought in my head where it's like, I can't, like, yeah, I teach, but like, I can't imagine myself not ever performing. I think the thought of that
yeah
brings a lot of anxiety. And so like I'm constantly like
for
going, okay,
sure
like what's next? What's next? What's next? Right? Because that's like it's the heart and soul of what I do. Maybe it's a little bit of the cause of how I feel sometimes. It's this
maybe that internal struggle of like
Damn.
of the
Can't
self
win.
torment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
about finding the balance that works best for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like it's I feel like it kind of stemmed from me trying to always show people that I'm doing my best, like it's like, look what I did and this and this and that. So I feel like maybe it's something that has stemmed off of like always trying to like make other people proud of what I do, right? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
I don't know. It's like
I,
this,
I get
like,
you. I get you.
yeah, I don't know,
It's an external
childhood
pressure that
thing.
you're internally putting on yourself. It's like
Yeah,
you're putting all this external pressure on like
yeah.
pleasing everybody that you need to please in your life, like the teacher role with your students and the musician
Mm,
role with your audience. Like it's a lot of
mm,
like you giving, 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 and it's
mm,
like when do you get in return?
mm. And but it's like when you get that return, it's like this is why I'm doing it, right? This is why I'm here. This is why um I do what I do, right? So it's like
Of
I don't
course.
know. Yeah.
It
Life
is
is
good that you
easy
view it
for
that way
this.
because some people miss it. Some people don't.
That's
Some people
yeah.
get the return and they don't see it, right? Or they don't
That
absorb
yeah.
it fully.
That's what I tell myself, you know. I like I'm able to see why I do what I do and then to go, okay, like, you know, it's worth it in the end, right? So mhm.
Of course. And like being open and candid with you, because we're both artists, obviously, so you'd understand this.
Mm,
I forget sometimes.
mm,
It
yeah,
just happens. Like,
yeah.
you kind of forget. I feel
Hmm.
like if you're kind of, for example, like if I'm, I don't know, working on a song or something, and it's
Hmm.
the music business a little bit, obviously now that you've been in it for a while.
Yeah,
Uh, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that people don't see
yeah.
before you can even release a song, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
then you release the
Hmm.
song, and there's more work after that. So it's like there's so much grit and grind behind
Mm.
the scenes that it takes you away from the actual love of the art. And it's
Hmm.
not until I play a show again, which is, maybe twice a month if I'm lucky, 3 times a month.
Yeah, that's
And they're
great.
like it's in
That's
between shows,
amazing.
right? Which is good, and I'm trying to play
Yeah,
more, obviously, but it's like
yeah,
it's not until I play a show again and I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I do what I do.
yeah.
But it's like
Absolutely.
those moments are fleeting. Like I
Yeah.
wish it happened more, and I wish I didn't forget as much about why I do what I do until the moment happens. I wish I
Hmm.
could
Hmm.
absorb more
Hmm.
and
You
give
know,
myself the credit of the work in between each show.
yeah, yeah. And I feel like we need to take off all that pressure and just remember like why you're doing what you're doing. Like there's no I feel like as an artist, like you're constantly yeah, social media, you're always on social media and like you're constantly looking at what other artists are doing and what opportunities they have. And like it's not like you're purposely doing it, but it's almost like you're doing it not intentionally because it's always in your face.
Yeah.
And then I think like as artists, like we start to feel like, oh my God, I gotta do this next, I gotta do that next, and blah blah blah. Like you get like this feeling of anxiety because it's like you see so many things happening. But you just said
Yep.
it, like so much work went behind all these things that are happening. They don't just happen, right? So like
Yeah.
everyone is playing the game actually. All these artists are they're all playing the game. They're
Of
all going
course.
through the grind and like
Absolutely.
you know, you just got to kind of like take it at your own pace and enjoy the process of the creation. Like no one needs to see what you're doing every second of the day. Like I think it's okay to take a break
For
from
sure.
all the updates. I don't know. Yeah.
And
Hmm.
it's one of those things too, like to touch on what you just said about the social media thing, like it's not pretty and it's not
No.
like content to like post about the behind the scenes shit. Like no
Uh,
one really cares, right? Like the general audience that's like consuming your artwork and content, like maybe some of them care, but like the vast majority of them don't really know all the behind the scenes shit and don't probably care enough to know. So you're only really presenting them the idea of the song
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
then the final product of the song and then maybe a music video. And like that's all they see, but they don't see the rest of the stuff because it's not pretty enough or not
Yeah.
consumable enough to post about it, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's just an
Mm-hmm.
interesting dynamic. I feel like if they did see the actual fucking effort it took to get to that point, they'd be more appreciative
See,
of the final product.
mm, I feel like
Sorry, I don't
this
want to come across as
is
pretentious. That sounded really pretentious. I'm
no,
sorry, but like,
not pretentious, but like I feel like sometimes we need to do like yeah, I think to be honest, behind the scenes stuff is actually pretty cool to me. I like it because I
oh, for
appreciate
us as
it.
artists, absolutely.
We appreciate that
Yeah,
stuff, right? And that stuff hits us.
of
But
course.
like I feel like there is an audience out there that would appreciate it too. Like especially ones that are maybe aspiring to be what you are, right? And they see what you do, and I feel like
Sure,
those are the people that like you post those things for, right? Not necessarily the average
sure. There's
listener
definitely an
that will
audience.
like whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
so
feel like
yeah,
there's definitely a pocket of audiences for everything. It's just finding it.
yeah, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
that was a great little tangent
I
on
love
the artistry.
I feel like I don't know, I go into big tangents too, so
That's okay. That's what this podcast is for.
Yeah.
Go on a tangent.
I
And
feel
it's
like I'm
it's funny
really
too
great
because
at that.
like a lot of my
Mm.
guests are in the music world, like because
Mm.
obviously that's my world that I live in, right? It's the music world.
Yeah.
So a lot of guests I have on are my friends or in other
Yeah.
bands or by
Yeah.
extension in the music industry somewhere, you know. So it's like it always ends up going this direction.
I love
I swear
it.
I'll have guests that aren't in the music world. I promise listeners and viewers, it's not going to be all music related. At some point, I will have people that are not music, but for right now, that's people I know. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so you touched upon this earlier in the conversation already,
Mm. Mm.
but I'll ask anyways, just for out of curiosity's sake.
Okay.
You did say that you weren't like diagnosed with anything right now. So
Yeah.
with that being said, would you ever consider a diagnosis?
I I'm curious. Like I'm curious if I actually do or don't. Like I'm curious. So I feel like I would go and see and get a diagnosis. I do
Yeah,
know that it's family related. There's some sort of stems of genetic things happening in my family, like not immediate, but like extensions. So
yeah, yeah.
I feel like it doesn't hurt to get a diagnosis and see like is this something that's actually there or that something else like that I need to get over. Maybe it's not specifically depression. Maybe it's just I feel like a lot of anxiety actually that stems
Yeah, it could
into
be that
that
too.
feeling. Because I just feel like I can definitely say like I do feel anxious sometimes, so like a lot more than I do depressed, just because just I think it stems off of feeling anxious. But I never
Yeah,
show
for
that I'm
sure.
anxious at all. Like it's always in my head.
Well, it's funny because like anxiety leads to
Yeah,
depression.
I think that's
They're like they're like hand in
probably what
hand.
it is. Oh yeah, hmm yeah.
So like
So
if you're feeling anxious about things, you go down that like anxious spiral of thoughts, and
mm,
then that's when depression kicks in and goes, "You
mm,
suck. You can't do this." Like it's almost
mm,
like
mm.
my therapist calls it a bully in your
Oh
head.
yeah.
Like it's
Oh
like a bully living in your head, and like it's yelling all the negative things at you.
yeah, yeah. I think
So that's kind of how I interpret it.
absolutely. And I feel like if you're a person that has had bad relationships in your past, I mean that goes hand in hand with the anxiety and depression because like you're constantly like you've constantly had this voice where it's like you're not good enough or why are you doing that or like you're making me feel this way and so I
Hmm.
think like if I've had some pretty uh troubling relationships in the past that maybe have triggered these things or these feelings. But um, I'm really trying to get over these stupid thoughts in my head that I get sometimes,
It's
and
hard, man. It's hard.
it's really really hard. But I'll definitely say I actually found what's her name Mel Robbins. I found her recently, and she also does podcasts as well. She's such
Okay.
an amazing woman. So I've been listening to her some of her stuff, and it's a lot of self esteem stuff that helps you realize that like you're an amazing person, and everyone's amazing. Everyone has
That's
like
nice.
these beautiful things about them. So yeah, I feel like
Of
I'm really
course.
glad that I recently found her. I feel like I'm trying to like work my way through my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions.
Absolutely. Of
Yeah.
course, of course.
Yeah.
I guess the reason why I asked the diagnosis question, and I get various answers for this question, so it's been
Hmm.
interesting to ask
Oh,
all these
cool.
guests on my show about it because I get very varied answers, and it's just cool to
Oh,
hear, right? Like where
yeah.
everyone kind of sits in this realm.
Yeah.
I've had people say like they don't want it
Okay.
because they know for sure that they know what it is, like it's depression, like
Hmm.
they don't need to worry about finding the answer. And like
Mm-hmm.
people like have taken it where it's like it makes it too real if they get the
Mm-hmm.
diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they'd rather just face it themselves and like
Mm-hmm.
muscle
Mm-hmm.
through it and like I
Yeah.
guess having a doctor or a therapist or whoever tell them directly like, hey, you are depressed maybe that becomes
Yeah.
too real for them. They go, eesh, they don't know how to deal with it properly. But
Yeah.
then I've had the polar opposite of that. I've had people go like, I needed a diagnosis. I'm so grateful I got a diagnosis because it gave me the clairvoyancy that I needed. I can
Hmm.
think clearly about it now. I know what it is right in front of me. Like, and my doctor, therapist, psychiatrist, whoever gave me a pathway to go down to deal with it better. Like, I've heard like a full spectrum of answers on this
Wow.
question. So it's just interesting
Oh,
to see.
that's actually very
And they're really,
interesting.
it
Hmm.
is very interesting. And it's like, there
Hmm.
is no right or wrong answer to this question. It's just like whatever feels right to you, right? Like, mental
Hmm.
health is still such a thing we have to learn about still. Like
Hmm.
there's research being done, but it's like there's so much work that needs to be done in the mental health field.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
for me, it was like I was so young. Like I was 13 when I was diagnosed. I didn't really get a choice. Like I was so young. I don't even
Wow.
have any like I don't really remember. Like I remember being at the doctor's and him telling me, but I don't really like remember the process at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, but I feel like I would have gone anyways
Hmm.
to get it because
Hmm.
I would have. I know myself and I know the personality that I have and like I'm very like particular.
Yeah.
So like I
Yeah.
feel like I would really want to know what was going on up here so that I
Yeah.
can like have a roadmap as to how to deal with it properly, you know what I mean? Like
You know,
and
I
like not
are you like
go
are you
ahead, go ahead.
glad? Are you glad that you found out at that age? Because like now you're able to, do you feel like you're able to better deal with it now? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
thank you for
asked you
that
a question
question.
in your own
The
podcast.
pod No, it's okay. I love it. I love it. I love it. No, it's great. I've had tons of people ask questions. That's what it's all about. Like I don't want to feel like a host per se, like I know that I am the host of the show, but like
Yeah,
I just want to feel
yeah.
like a friend. So thank you.
Great.
Um yeah, yeah. I am glad that I found out when I did in
Hmm.
hindsight. I think maybe at
Hmm.
the time I was like, fuck this, like I don't need to know this, like whatever, because I was 13 years old and I was a rebellious child. But no, I'm certainly grateful for it now because if I had found out later in life, I don't think I would have learned the skills that I have now to kind of
Hmm.
cope with it the way I've been dealing with it now. Like obviously there's still tons of room to learn, obviously. Like I didn't learn it overnight, obviously.
Yeah,
Actually, I'm still like learning and like
yeah.
how to deal with it properly and like coming up with
Hmm.
different defense mechanisms and coping mechanisms and all that kind of stuff to deal with the episodes that I deal with. But
Hmm.
yeah, I feel like and like you just change as a person when you age too, right? Like
Yeah,
so what worked for you when you were a teenager might not work for you when you're in your 20s or 30s, right? So it's like
yeah.
you have to adapt. So like yes, I am grateful that I learned that I
Hmm.
had them when I was younger because it
Hmm.
it allowed like the foundation blocks to start being built for me so that like I didn't completely explode when I was older, right? Or like
Yeah, no
getting diagnosed as
kidding.
like 25. I mean, like, you know what I mean?
That's
Like,
a lot to, yeah,
so,
deal with, I'm sure. Yeah,
and
yeah.
there are people out there that get diagnosed way later because either their family doesn't agree with it or doesn't believe in mental health, or
Hmm.
maybe their culture doesn't believe in mental health, or there's so many external factors as to why people get diagnosed so much later in life. And then,
Hmm.
like, they're in their 30s or 40s, and it's like, you got depression, man. You probably had depression your whole life.
And,
And then they have to
not,
sit with that at like 30 or 40 and be like, okay, like where do I go from here now? So it's like I can't imagine
mm,
what that's like. So yeah, I am grateful for finding out so young.
that's good. Yeah.
But yeah,
Hmm.
um I'm glad that you feel like you could use the diagnosis. I mean, like, I know for
Yeah.
me the way I view it was it kind of gives you like, here's it. That's what it is. You
Yeah.
got this. Now where do you
Yeah.
go from here kind of thing, right? So
Yeah. Like I'm definitely not
you're not really
afraid
playing a
of,
guessing game so much anymore.
yeah, no, like I'm not afraid of figuring it out if that's what it is. Or I'm not afraid of getting a diagnosis at all, but I do understand why some people would rather just not know. Um,
For sure.
Especially depending on how old they are or whatever. Like I totally understand that, but the thought of it doesn't really bother me or scare me at all. Yeah.
That's good. And I feel like you're a very smart person. Like you seem like you're very like methodical.
Thank you.
So I feel like if you got that information, you would be able to
Hmm.
like take it and be like, okay, how do I map this
Hmm.
out now? Like
Yeah.
it is depression. I
Mhm.
know it's this now. Like, what are my next steps? I feel like you'd like teacher it. I'm
I
gonna use it as a verb. You're gonna teacher
Step
depression.
one, I will chunk it down for you and I'll create a graph.
Yeah,
You have these
yeah,
options for step
exactly.
one.
You'll come in with like, if you go to therapy, you'll come into the therapist's office with like bar graphs and line graphs and be like, okay, so the exponent is here. This is my chemical level. Like,
Oh God, hey, I'm not into math, that's for sure. Science or whatever. Do not put me in a math or science class, please. But yeah, I'll definitely break it down in an English way, like English or drama,
there you
or
go.
something like that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is step one of what's his name? What's that famous like method that actors use? It was like a Russian name,
Oh, ah,
Stanovsky or something.
yes. Oh shoot. Oh my God, I should know this.
Stanislav.
Oh yes. I'm gonna butcher it, but Stanislavski.
Stanislavski, is that what it is?
I think so.
I don't know, dude. So it's funny, like I should stop using world
There
references
is
because in the
so
last
many
episode,
references though. Yeah, yeah.
no, there is. In the last episode, my friend Phil, it's so funny. And like for those of you that watched the first episode, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I was referencing the Last Supper,
Oh
you
no.
know, like the painting, but
Yes.
I called it the dinner.
No.
I was like, yeah, you know, like that famous painting, The Dinner, and he was like,
No
The Dinner,
way.
and he's like, The Last Supper, and I'm like, fuck,
Come on, man.
The Dinner. I
The
was like,
dinner. You know
ah,
what?
same thing.
The dinner. It is the dinner. I mean, it is a dinner. It's the last
Dinner,
dinner.
supper.
It's
It depends on what
yeah,
region you're in. Whatever.
never. It's
Anyways,
fine. That's
moving on.
hilarious. Well, anyway.
So Alyssa, what has been your experience or your perspective of dealing with your mental health? And so the way I like to break this question down is kind of
Mhm.
like give our listeners and viewers a timeline. So like when you first started seeing signs of this, you know, quote unquote depression that you were
Mhm.
feeling, like
Mhm.
take us back to like when you first started feeling that way and then what your journey's been like up until now. And you can
Oh
bullet point it
wow.
if you need to, like however you want to tell it, but yeah. Just break it down for us, your experience.
Um. So I really, really felt this feeling of depression. Um, Back in 2020, COVID times.
Okay.
I was teaching a lot online. I was sitting at my computer all day long and not doing anything else. And um, I was also in a very tough relationship at that point
Yeah.
that I started to literally get quiet in. Like it wasn't like as if I was um purposely trying to do it. I literally started to detach myself from that world, um to the point where like I disappeared from that world completely. Like I was just not present in that person's life anymore. Um which
Okay.
was pretty dark because we spent some time together. More than you would think, like for me to even do that. But I basically just disappeared from this person's life. Um, and I think because I just emotionally wasn't present in that relationship anymore for a lot of reasons.
Sure.
But it's definitely not like a normal thing to do. So I was going through a lot of things where, I felt good about doing it, then I didn't feel good about doing it. And that was, yeah, back in 2020.
Yeah.
Anyways, and then I started to realize that learning how to speak of these feelings. So this past year, not this past year, back in 2021, I started realizing that it's best to speak about the things that I find are wrong and stuff. So I kind of was more open to sharing these feelings with other people.
Yeah.
I still haven't mended that relationship though. Like to me, that's just not there anymore. But
Yeah.
you know what I'm trying to say? I feel like I'm just going in like this journey here,
No,
but
no.
it's
However you
kind of
feel like you need
messy.
to
I'm
describe it.
sorry. And then,
No, it's okay.
I I feel like back in 2020 and then 2021, I really started to gravitate very, very much so to music again, actually. And we didn't know each
Okay.
other then, but that's when I really started to focus on what makes me happy, like what's for me. Like I don't want any negativity around me. Like I need to focus on what truly makes me happy. So I spent a lot of time building up my social media and building up myself as an artist and figuring out stuff. And so just getting lost in the
Hmm.
world of music and diving into something that I always wanted to do. And so I started, yeah, writing songs. I started doing covers. I started my YouTube channel. I started Instagram, and I had Facebook going. Obviously, I had that going first, but then yeah, I started really diving into music, and I felt so much joy, like the sense of like this is what I love, and it really helped to um, get me back full circle to what I've always wanted to do in my life. Like been singing
Hmm.
Disney songs since I was 2 years old. Like so, it's just kind of like
Yeah.
nice to get back to that, to what I love anyway. And so I felt like music really helped bring joy to my life in such a dark time. Um, and then, I
Yeah.
started networking, and I think at some point we met. I was doing my own solo stuff. And so I don't know, I guess I had a really dark moment back in 2020. And
Yeah.
now it's something like music is something that I love, that I have, that when I do have these moments of like, what am I doing with my life? Like I really just like look back and I go like, wow, how did I do all that? How did I do all
Right.
that? Like how did I freaking do that? Like I was,
Hmm.
you're isolated, you're by yourself. It's like COVID times. Like how the after somebody do that, right? Like um
Yeah.
so I got to
Perseverance.
think like I do have a lot of perseverance. I think I push myself way more than I should, but I feel like whenever I get to that state of I feel really down and like depressed and sad, I really have to think like how much I've done, like how far I've
Yeah.
come, how much I've done, and it gets so like emotional and like you know, but it's like I'm really proud of myself. So I feel like I have a
You
sense of
should be.
pride and a sense of like I could see what I've done, and like I just go, no matter what, just keep pushing because you never really know where life's going to take you. And I just like,
Absolutely.
I would never imagine. Uh, I I don't know. I think if I stuck to that very dull, dark relationship, I would not be having this conversation with you. I would not be the Alyssa Messina band. I would not be. I would just. Who knows? Don't know.
Yeah.
So I think
So it
that's the
sounds like a
journey. If
lot
that
of
makes
what
sense
you
to
were
you.
dealing with. No, like thank you for sharing that. It's obviously a lot. I can tell it's very emotional for you.
Yes.
Um, and I'm glad
Mm.
that like you are proud of yourself and you found a way to
Mhm.
muscle through that dark period of your life.
Yeah.
Um, it
Mhm.
sounds to me like a lot of this, and like forgive me, but it sounds like a lot of this derives from that specific point in 2020, I think you said,
Yeah. Yeah.
where you were like, I mean,
Mhm.
everyone was isolated, obviously, so that already is
Sure.
difficult to begin with. And then it sounds like you had a rough relationship with said person, and then
Mhm.
like it just became overwhelming for you, and then like that's probably where the depression episodes started, maybe.
I think so. Absolutely. Um,
Yeah,
I was like, at one point, I was like numb. I was like numb to life. I was like I was done in that relationship a year before I just decided to fade away from it. And it
right.
was like, I didn't like, it was like, you're just there, but you're not there. That's what I
Yeah, yeah.
felt.
You're kind of living and existing, but not really living and existing.
No, no. And like, but you still put on that pretty outfit and you fix your hair and you look normal. You're just, going out for dinner and having a great night.
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, not good. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely takes its
Yeah.
toll.
Yeah. So hope
Well,
that makes sense.
going into no, thank you. No, it definitely
Mm.
does. And so that kind of is a good segue into our first of two segments we have on the show.
Mm. Okay.
This first segment is called the Real Reels.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And basically, for context, I started this thing during COVID. So I started this
Hmm.
podcast in 2021, I think.
Hmm.
And I think at the time, like for real, or like real was like a term or something. And
Uh-huh.
so I said it as a joke once in like one of the earlier episodes that I started, and then my audience liked it, and so now it's just stuck. So now it's the
Okay.
Real
Okay.
Reels.
The real reels.
So
Okay.
basically, this segment is about like the shit that no one talks about
Hmm.
or like is scared to talk about. And like obviously, I'm not going to pressure you to say anything you're not comfortable with saying, so that's don't worry.
Okay.
But I
Okay.
just allow this segment to be open and for people to hear it. And it's really just all about breaking the stigma around this conversation.
Okay.
Like people are scared to talk about suicide. People are scared to talk about
Hmm.
depression, anxiety, and like
Hmm.
dealing with their mental health. And like if it's triggering for that person, then I understand, obviously. But
Hmm.
if it's societal issues that we're talking about here, it's like I don't buy that anymore. Like
Yeah.
this is 2023. We're living in a world where everything's fucked. Like
Yeah.
we need to be more open and honest with each other. And like my view, and like I've said this probably 100 times on the podcast already, so I'm sorry, listeners and viewers, but I'm telling Alyssa, so shut up. uh,
Yeah, shut up.
my view, or like my ideal world scenario in the next couple of years would be like, let's say you're walking into a coffee shop, and I don't know, you like pass by somebody in sitting down next to you or something, I don't know, whatever, and you just happen to exchange like, hey, hello, how are you? I
Mm.
want to get to a point in society where it's like, hey, how are you doing? Honestly, not good. And no one cringes. And like I
Yeah.
want people to be like, oh, like what's going on?
Huh.
I'm having a bad day. Like I'm having a depressive episode. And that
Hmm.
person doesn't immediately shut down.
Hmm.
Like that's the kind of world I want to get to.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a lot of fucking time. I
Oh
understand
yeah.
that, but that's kind of the whole point of this segment and this show. So with that being said, there's only one question in the Real Reels. And
Okay.
it's what are some of the hardest and darkest moments you've had to face dealing with your mental health?
Hmm.
And
Um,
like I said, if you're not comfortable with sharing, you don't have to, but I like to offer the space to say if you feel like you can.
I'm really trying to think and be honest and open. Um, I think at one point I I think at one point I stopped eating normally for like a month and a half. I lost a lot of weight. Um, yeah. So, and that's like that's not normal for me. Like I love food. Like I fucking eat everything. Like I don't care. I don't have any
Yeah.
restrictions. But like I remember there was like a point
You're also
where
Italian, right?
yeah, like hello, like I eat everything. Like so I get my foot up for how much
Yeah,
food I
that goes with
eat.
your
Like
culture.
I'm constantly eating.
Yeah.
But I remember the thought of food, like I had to force myself to eat because just even just like even coffee, I didn't touch. Um,
Wow.
I didn't touch that. I felt nauseous drinking it. So anyway, that was very hard. That was a hard time.
Yeah, that sounds extremely
Yeah.
difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely depression.
Yeah, I was
That's
definitely
a hard episode to go through.
in a
Were there
very
any
depressive
thoughts you were
state.
dealing with in that moment of time, or
Oh,
were you just like completely numb?
I was pretty numb, but I just was like very much why am I here? I
Mm,
questioned that. But
yeah.
that's the farthest I've been ever in my life. Um, so yeah, yes,
Was
it's
there ever a
not
moment, and
pretty.
forgive me, I'm not trying to pry, but was there ever a moment in that darkness that led you to any suicidal thoughts or anything like that, or did it ever get that far?
No, no. No, because even though I was
Okay,
in
good.
such a dark, depressive state and I wasn't eating,
Yeah.
um, I still there's still like something in my head that was saying, Alyssa, like you're gonna get through this, even though like I literally was holding on to like the thinnest string possible. You
Right.
know,
It's good that
yeah.
you had that string to hold on to at least. I'm
Oh
glad to hear
yeah,
that it didn't get
try.
as far as that, which is good. I mean, like
Yeah,
the situation is still bad.
yeah.
Like don't get me wrong. Like I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
that's still a horrible situation to be in. Like you need to eat food.
Mm-hmm.
We're all humans. We need to eat food. And so the fact that you
Mm-hmm.
didn't eat for a month and a half, like that's a lot, dude.
Like I was like, for example, like I would have like like I was forced to eat. Like I would have little tiny cherry tomatoes and like, a little piece of salad because
Yeah,
like I was
just
not
enough to
eating
survive, basically.
just enough to like put something in my system so I can like kind of function. Because like at the same time, I was teaching. I was in front of the class. I
Right.
had to be a human being. I did take some days. I took 2 days off, but it felt like crap. I was like, I have to be there for my students. Like, so like once again, I was like going through this really dark time, but I still had to be there for my students.
Yeah, you to put on
So
the Miss Messina. Like
one time,
it's a lot,
honestly,
man.
I thankfully I had a really great set of classes that semester, and I remember this one class. I told them what was going on, how I was feeling. I had to let it out. Like not everything, but like I was like, guys, like I'm going through a lot right now, and like some students, like they saw me cry a little bit, and they really appreciated that.
Yeah.
They really appreciated Mrs. Cena's a real person, and like you know she's going through some stuff. And then I had some kids
Yeah.
write me some cards and stuff, and I still have them in my office at work.
Oh,
Like,
that's
just
nice.
get better, Miss Messina. It was just like there's love, out there, right? So
Absolutely, there
yeah,
is. And like we certainly needed more love during that time for all of us,
totally.
right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's become a
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say a hot topic, but it's become a stress point in especially in like the further this podcast goes with episodes, like people bring up COVID a
Yeah,
lot, and like how could you not? Obviously, it's one of the most fucked up things we've had to go through as a society of
yeah,
our
it was
generation for
hard.
sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to a lot of people that never had mental health problems before.
Mm-hmm.
Their whole life they were fortunate enough to not have to deal with depression or anxiety or any of that stuff. And then COVID happened, and now they have depression and now they have anxiety. It's like I would
Yeah,
argue that probably 80% of the world now has some sort of mental health problems
for
now
sure.
after COVID. Like, how could you not? Like, it's
Absolutely.
unnatural to spend
Mm-hmm.
that much time by yourself in one location. Like,
Yeah, we're meant
us
to
as
like.
humans, we need to connect.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and so
it
like not
is
having
true.
that there, like it's gets messy. And so,
Mm-hmm.
but then on the flip coin for your situation, it sounds like you were going through so much in that dark period, but still had
Mm-hmm.
to persevere through it, even though like you feel like you couldn't, and but you still had to put on that face. You still had to go to work,
Oh
like
yeah. Mm-hmm.
like and sit in front of that camera with all your kids. Like
Oh,
it's a lot to go through, man.
I was in the classroom. I was in the classroom then, actually. Um, I was
Oh,
in the
you were in the
classroom.
classroom.
We're back in the classroom
Where
again.
was it
Yeah,
over Zoom? Like,
this was no, this was we were back in the classroom with the masks on. It was
oh, I see.
so foggy, all this COVID stuff. But I feel like
Yeah, I
it was
know.
definitely the first September back. It was the first
I
little
see.
bit
Got it.
back. Actually, it
Right.
was actually February of 2021.
2021 or 2022?
February of
21?
2021. Yeah, that's when that happens. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
Well, Alyssa, thank you for sharing that. I know that's probably not easy to talk about.
I kind of forgot
But
about it, to be
hey,
honest. I
well,
kind of
sorry for bringing it up again, but
It's fine. It's all good.
but
It's all good. Yeah.
yeah, no,
Mm,
but it's
yeah.
reflective, like where you came from, and that's some hard shit you had to get through, and
Yeah.
look, you're here, you made it
Yeah.
through. That's the
Yeah.
main thing. Like we all have those moments in our lives that are like really hard to face and really hard to get through, but it's the ones that
Mm,
can put their head down and get through it and come out a better
mm,
person that makes it all better. So
yeah.
that leads us into the next segment, which is the rainbow segment.
Ooh.
And again, that's another funny
Where
thing
did
that I
this name
said that
come
stuck.
from?
So here we are. I honestly don't remember. Like I know the real reels came from the saying, but I don't know why I said
Okay.
rainbow. Maybe just
Ah,
happy. I don't know.
right.
But yeah, so the rainbow segment is like all about coming out of the darkness and into the
Hmm.
light.
Hmm.
And, you know, mental health is an ongoing thing. It's never going to get solved
Hmm.
fully, but we can at least manage it better to the point
Hmm.
where it's not controlling our lives. So,
Yeah.
and most of the guests I've had on the show are at a point now where it's like they've gone through the trials and tribulations, some of the hardest moments of their life, and they're kind of coming out the other side of it now, learning and like managing it a bit better. So that's
Hmm.
kind of what this segment's about. It's kind of like getting through that dark patch and seeing where you're at now and like what you used and what you are using to
Hmm.
manage it on a day-to-day basis now.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, are there any positive things you discovered or are still finding out about dealing with your mental health today?
Um, Other positive things that I'm discovering about my mental health? Is that the question?
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
I guess view it in a way of like, you've gone through the hardships, you kind of know what it is now to a certain degree.
Hmm.
What going through that, what is it like? Is there any positivity that you can get out of it? Like, has it made you a stronger person? Like
Hmm.
approach the question like that, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like I mentioned, I feel like it's definitely made me a stronger person. Um, to know the stuff that I've dealt with and like how I've gone through things and um I even think like the love and support from my family too during these times has really helped me. But I also feel like um knowing and understanding and being more like open to it is definitely something that has made me a stronger person. I feel like I can talk more, provide more advice and be that person, like be that other person to lean on kind of thing. And um like I'm
Yeah.
definitely like a very like loving, caring person. That's just kind of like a natural like persona that I have that I've always had.
Yeah, that certainly
But
comes across.
definitely,
So,
yeah, definitely actually a lot more past couple of years though. And I feel like it's because of all these things that I felt and like, when people open up to me, I'm very sympathetic and I want to be there for them and I want to listen and I want to understand what it is they're going through. So I just feel like I've definitely um I feel like a stronger person because now I just feel more like aware
good.
and more open to helping others too, you know. Yeah.
Sure. Definitely. It's one of those
Hmm.
moments where like you can reflect back and be like, "Wow, I got through that shit." But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
now I can imagine what other people are going through now. Like now that I've
Yeah.
lived through something similar. So it's kind of like
Oh man.
I hate using the
It's
term like trauma bonding, but
yeah. It's
because it's
oh god. I know a lot of I know other I'm not going to say who, but I know there are some people in my life that are very close to me that I really really care about that as wise as I am about it, I mean, I still have a lot to learn, but
of
I
course.
also can't let my my love and my overwhelming care really take control of my emotions when they're dealing with what they're dealing with,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I did. So like I feel like
Absolutely.
now I'm like, okay, I know what it feels like for me, but I can only do so much for so and so. And I have to just understand like
Sure.
that's what they're going through, but also still be that person, but I can't let my emotions get to me for what they're going through too. Cause it's like I also can't like fully um hold all that, right? So you
No,
know what I'm trying to
exactly.
say.
It's all about knowing how much space you can give and how much space you can take.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm learning too. So
Yeah, I'm also learning that, so I understand that feeling entirely.
mm, hmm yeah. And it's not like a selfish thing. It's just like
No,
taking
it's
care of
never a
yourself
selfish
too.
thing.
You're taking care of yourself too. You
Yeah,
gotta
it's
like
self-respect in a way.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's a little bit
absolutely.
of like self-awareness too. It's kind of like you want to be there, but like if you're
Yeah,
not fully able to be
there.
there, then how much are you really going to give and how much can they really give to you, right? So it's like
Yeah.
it's just being wary of that.
Hmm.
Um, with that being said, have you found any constructive ways or like coping mechanisms, whatever label you want to call it as, in dealing with your mental health struggles in this era of your life? Like
Well,
what have you found helps you get through these episodic, depressive episodes?
when I when I feel like okay, well, I'm a person, especially when if I'm not in like a working state where like I'm working 9 to 5 and like I'm doing stuff, I'm the type of person that really has to create a schedule for myself. So during these summer months, I have to go, okay, like I'm gonna get up, I'm going to do this. I'm gonna get up at this time and then I'm gonna go for a run. I feel like running, it's any sort of physical activity for me is something that like it does wonders for my mind. It does wonders for like
Mm-hmm.
just getting myself out there and like ready for the day. So running has always been a huge part of my life, and I feel like it's something that I like really helps me um, get through the stuff that I'm going through. And so whenever I feel like I'm gonna like go into that thought, I go, okay, no, okay, let's get up. Come on, let's get up. Let's go for a run. Like, let's do this. If you're not gonna
Right.
get up now, you're not gonna do it. So like, I have to like tell myself like to do it. And once I do it, I feel way better.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Also, and I kind of, briefly said this before, but beach days, being
Yes.
outside, going outside for walks, like you don't have to like just even okay, like going to a certain part of the city and going for walks and like listening to music and just being by yourself and like you don't have to go shopping and buy stuff. I mean, you could buy stuff if you want to, but I mean, I feel like
Yeah,
going for walks
materialism doesn't
is
solve everything.
it doesn't. It's good, but then it's like, oh damn it, why did I buy
Yeah,
that?
it's a short
Should save my
rush
money.
of serotonin, but it doesn't last long.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, going
You
for
gotta
walks,
find
going
fulfillment
for
in other things.
runs.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's funny because Alyssa and I were talking off camera about
Yeah,
beach days,
yeah, beach
and
days.
I'm glad you brought it back because I wanted to tie that in somehow.
Beach days.
Because
Yeah,
oh man, we love beach days.
being in nature, like just even going beach days, hikes, like going for a bike
Yeah,
ride, going for runs, like sitting by the water. I cannot
so
express to
important.
you how much that does for your mind. Like turn off the cell phone. Like this phone here, just want to like throw it sometimes because like I it's
Mm-hmm.
like I can't like
Yep.
it's we're so addicted to, especially as artists, we can't help it. We have to have the social media, whatever. But like when you have a
Yeah.
moment to not be on it, like literally put it away and just go do something outside. Get outside, right? Beach days,
Yeah.
runs,
Absolutely.
hikes. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I
Nature
think
is
that
so
helps a lot.
important.
Yeah.
Exercise is so important. No, thank you for sharing that. It's
Mm-hmm.
again, this is a question where I get such an awesome response of like seeing like what each guest does to help them get through their own mental health
Really?
struggles, right?
That's
It's so varied with like this one of the great joys I have of doing this podcast is I get to learn so much from other
yeah.
people, like my friends, my peers, other music industry people. other, just all the guests I have on the show, basically. Like I learned so much, and like I
Yeah.
learned like how many different ways
Yeah.
and different things that people use to get through their mental health struggles, right? It's fascinating to me. And
Yeah.
but
That's
yeah,
so
the big
cool.
ones always come up. Like getting out to nature is always a big one that I hear a lot of, which I agree with entirely.
Yeah.
Exercise is always an important one too. Like I feel
Uh-huh.
like it's kind of I feel like it's overstated a lot,
It,
exercise. And I
it
feel like it
is.
can be like definitely misconstrued, but
Yeah.
it's as simple as like you said, going for a walk. Everyone go for a walk. No
Yeah.
matter who you are. We
Yeah.
can
Go
all go
outside.
for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
like just go get some fresh air. Like even just that. Like it might not
Yeah.
seem like a lot at first, but if you keep doing it and really
Yeah.
buy into it, it does
Yeah.
help.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know for
Um,
us personally, Alyssa, music is a big one for us, obviously.
yeah. Music, absolutely. Like, oh God, like after this podcast, I'm gonna go downstairs
I
and
know that can't
play
apply
some more
to
guitar.
everybody, but at least you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like we have that to escape to sometimes. I know like I definitely if I find an episode
Mm.
coming on for me, like I usually for me it's walking my dog usually helps a lot.
Yeah.
And being with him, whatever. But it's if that doesn't work, then it's usually like me like picking up the guitar and just practicing,
Yeah.
just singing songs that I already've written or like trying to write a new song, maybe about the feeling
Yeah.
that I'm feeling, like just trying to get it
Yeah.
from like in here to the page,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
The whole sometimes the best songs come out from that, from here to the
absolutely.
page, right? And I feel like using music as a tool to like speak about or sing about what it is that we're going through, I think is a beautiful, beautiful thing, right? So
Absolutely.
I feel like I also do the same as well, where like, just going downstairs and playing my piano and just figuring out what I'm doing next kind of thing, right? Like it's
Of
another
course.
therapeutic thing that yeah, you can't live without as an artist, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of our bread and butter.
Yeah. Which is great, by the way.
All
I
right,
love bread and butter.
Alyssa. Oh, oh yeah. Some toast.
Sorry.
Some toast is good
See, I
too.
told you I
No,
love
it's
food.
okay. Yeah, that's the Italian in
Yeah.
you. The bread and butter.
Is it
Or olive oil,
though?
I guess, too,
Yeah, olive oil. Anyway.
right?
All right.
Well, Alyssa, I just want to say a big thanks for coming on and sharing everything. It was wonderful to chat with you about mental health.
Yeah.
Um, do you have any final thoughts or feelings that you want to share or express to the listeners or viewers today?
Well,
Any final words of wisdom from Alyssa?
ooh, oh my gosh. I think my best piece of advice
No
for
pressure.
anyone dealing. Okay, here we go. My best piece of advice for anyone dealing with mental health or simply just not having a good day or otherwise, really take a moment to understand who you are, why you're doing what you're doing, and finding moments of peace and just recognition for how far you've come. That's my biggest advice. You are in your own lane, you're in your own journey. Take care of yourself because this is this is once like a once in a lifetime thing, right? So you got to take care of this before you go out there and do what you need to do. So that's my biggest piece of advice. Yeah.
Well said. Well
Thank
said.
you.
What
Thank
a
you.
what a
Thank you.
beautiful way to end the pod. Wow. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
those amazing words, Alyssa. I'm sure we all appreciate it. Hello, viewers. Hello,
Yay.
listeners.
Hello.
Um, yeah, no, I agree. Honestly, just I keep saying it again and again at the end of every podcast. Like it's the little things, man.
Mm,
You gotta enjoy little things.
absolutely.
I know it sounds
Absolutely.
cliche and stupid, but like it's true though. Like
Yeah.
and it's difficult. It's not gonna happen right away, but don't
Mm-hmm.
get frustrated. Like
Mm-hmm.
allow
Mm-hmm.
yourself to feel the feeling and try again the next day. Like just try to start enjoying the smallest things.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like I get up, I take my dog outside to pee in the morning and I'm like, hey, I'm breathing. I've
You're
got a
breathing.
dog, I got grass.
You
You know what I
you
mean?
you
Like
know.
it's as simple as
Hmm.
like just that. Like
Yeah.
start there and then work your way up. Like don't start at this like huge ass fucking goal of like for our case, being like a global touring band, like it's
Yeah,
absurd.
it is absurd.
We're not
It
going to
is
get there if we just aim for there. You have to enjoy the steps to get there.
Enjoy the journey. Yeah, enjoy the journey. Be present in your life. Life is precious. You know, take your time. That's my advice. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Mm.
All right, Alyssa. Well, I
All
do
right.
allow the guests at the end of the show to plug away if they have anything coming up or if they want to shout out
Oh.
anything in their life to the viewers and listeners. So
Oh
the
gosh.
floor is yours,
Okay.
Alyssa. What do you
Oh,
got
thank
going on?
you. Well, okay, with that being said, I have a show coming up at the Dakota Tavern on Tuesday, July 25th. So if you guys are in the city,
Woo!
please come out to that. Yeah, it's gonna be great. I got some merch that I'm selling. I'm still trying to sell. It's great. It's cute. T-shirts, pins,
I
stickers.
have a shirt. It's awesome. Buy one.
Yes, yes, he has a shirt too. I have a Taylor Simpson shirt, which is amazing.
You
But then
do.
after that, yeah, after that, I got to say this one more thing because you and I are going on a almost like a little weekend mini tour thingy happening.
Yes, we are.
um, August 4th, Peterborough, your hometown. It's going to be
Yes.
fantastic. We're
I'm
playing
excited.
together with two other
Yeah.
bands from Peterborough. It's going to be fantastic. And then Saturday, August 5th, we have another show in Oshawa. So it's going to be
Woohoo!
great. Yay. That's it for now. But
And
more
a
to come.
potential show in Kitchener on the 6th.
Oh, yes, that's right. Which I'm very excited to hear more about.
So this might be a whole weekend of shows, and I'm fucking excited.
I am stoked. I am stoked. It's my first time our band is out of the city, like traveling together. So it's going to be like, yay.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Hopefully we don't know each other. Yay.
No, we'll get along just great. It'll be
No, it'll be
fine.
great. It'll be a good time.
Yeah, whole
Yeah.
weekend, fucking mini tour. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be a party.
Yeah, so if you're listening or watching, if you're in the Peterborough, Oshawa, or Kitchener area, come on out. It's gonna be
Love to
super
see
fun.
you.
August 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Hmm.
It's gonna be a grand old time with my band and Alyssa's band.
Yay.
It's gonna be
All right.
awesome.
Gonna be
All right,
great.
Alyssa. Well, I just want to say a big, big, big thank you to coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. I'm sure my viewers and listeners appreciated hearing your story. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for opening up and being vulnerable today. It means a lot to me as well. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. Mhm.
Of course. And I always leave the podcast with drink some water and tell the person next to you that you love them or someone in your life that you love them because life is fleeting. So spread that love, drink your water, and thank you so much for listening and watching. If you're on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe, hit that like button, do all the things. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, make sure to give it a follow, make sure to review, make sure to share it to your friends. If something aligns with what Alyssa and I talked about today, hopefully you get something out of it. It'd be really cool. Oh, where can people find you, Alyssa? I forgot to ask that.
Oh,
If they want to reach out.
so they could reach out to me first of all on Instagram, so at Alyssa Messina Music. You can
There you
find me
go.
on YouTube, Alyssa Messina. So at Alyssa Messina Music is the best way on Instagram to find me. So
Perfect. And how do you spell that for people that might need to spell it?
at and then ALYSSA Messina MESSINA Music MUSIC. There you go.
Got it. Alyssa Messina Music. Check her
Thank
out.
you.
I can't vouch for her enough. She's an amazing person. And thank you guys so much for listening. Alyssa, thank you.
Thank you.
I love you. Goodbye.
Bye.